Hey everybody, this is Mark again. It's been a little while since I was able to catch you folks up with what's going on with my classes. For those of you who don't know, my name is Mark and I am a volunteer chaplain within the Florida Department of Corrections. I go in on Monday nights and I teach a self-betterment class to the fellas still inside. In this video right here, I brought class 1, which is getting your mind right. And in this class here, this is raising your personal standards. I believe before we make any changes in our life, before we go on to seek employment, seek relationships, seek to build our credit score, do anything like that, the first thing we got to do is get our mind right. We got to change the way we think, and we got to raise our personal standards. We have to become men and women of integrity. We have to choose that first. And for my brothers and sisters who are still inside, when they get out, they have to live with the mark of a felon. And that sometimes makes life difficult. Makes life difficult when you have to get a job and they do a background check. Makes life difficult when you're looking for a place to live. And sometimes makes life difficult in social interactions. So I believe that we have to do everything we can do to mitigate our past, to mitigate our felony or our criminal record. And one of the best ways we can do that is by raising our personal standards. I brought this lesson to the men on the inside on May 13th. And I believe the first thing we have to do is learn to get out of our own way. We have to stop self-destructive habits. I remember one time I had been out, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years. This might have been back in 04, maybe beginning of 05. I remember I was over at my cousin's house, and a lot of people had high hopes for me after I got out, and I made a series of bad decisions. I didn't have anybody to guide me, to talk to me about life skills, and I made a series of bad choices. And I remember 04, 05, somewhere in there, I was in the midst of the consequences of my bad decisions. I was having a hard time, and I didn't have a place to live. And my cousin was being kind to me and gave me an extra room in her house, was trying to help me get on her feet. And this one particular night, we were sitting there in the kitchen and we were talking. And she says, you know, Mark, you could do a lot if you could just learn to get out of your own damn way. I ain't never forgot that. And I didn't begin that night trying to get out of my way, but those words, she planted a seed in me. And that seed began to grow. And over the next few months and years, that seed really began to take root in my life. And I began to understand, before I could move forward, I had to stop self-destructive behaviors. So if you're addicted, if you are doing things that you ought not do, whether you're involved in a life of crime, or maybe you're not necessarily involved in a life of crime, but you're just not opposed to being an outlaw on occasion. Whatever the case may be, before you can move forward, you have to leave your past behind. You got to stop the self-destructive behaviors. Maybe it ain't a habit. Maybe you got hindrances in your life. Maybe you got people in your life who are negative influences. Maybe you got people in your life that are draining you. Maybe you got people in your life that don't believe the best about you. And maybe you're making excuses. Oh, I can't do that because, oh, they'll never let me do that because I would like to do that, but I can't. The thing we have to do, we have to get rid of the self-destructive behaviors in the form of habits, hindrances, and excuses. The next principle is keep your word. You got to do what you say you're going to do. Always. You know, they say in the chain gang they got a saying. They said, if your word ain't shit, you ain't shit. Now, I don't necessarily want to cuss on here, but that's the way it goes. You're only as good as your word. If your word's no good, you're no good. Period. I ain't trying to upset you. I ain't trying to offend you, but I am trying to tell you the truth. If your word is no good, then you're no good. Period. That really does not require a whole lot more elaboration. You're either going to be a person of integrity or you're not. And being a person of integrity means being a person of integrity when it's difficult to be. Not when it's easy to be. When it's difficult to be. Let me give you an example. It was probably around 2010, and I had a metal recycling business. And I went to St. Augustine. And I had a job up there where they wanted me to clear out a bunch of old Navy planes that had been sitting on a piece of property. There was about 9 of them. And so this was like a 5-hour drive. It was a big deal. I had to go up there, had to rent a hotel. It cost quite a bit of money just to even get started to do this job. And I had a deal all worked out where I was going to sell the metal. And I believe I had it sold somewhere about 52 cents a pound. And that was quite a bit of money for all these 9 Navy planes I was going to crunch up and bring in and sell by the pound. Each one of these planes was probably in the vicinity of 8,000 to 10,000 pounds. They had already been stripped of their motors and stuff. Or I guess I should say engines. And when I got to town, I found a better deal. I found a guy who was going to give me 65 cents per pound. Now, folks, from 52 to 65, that's like a 13 cents per pound difference. That's significant. And especially when you're talking about 80,000 pounds, about. And I had a dilemma. I didn't know what to do. I had already made a deal with this one guy. But then when I got into town, this other guy popped up and offered me a significant amount of money more. And I called a friend of mine who was sort of a mentor to me at that time in the scrap metal world. And I called him and I explained to him what was going on. And I said, am I wrong if I take this higher bid? And I'll never forget his words. I was on the phone, but he told me, he said, yes, you are. He said, you are definitely wrong. You've already made a deal. You've already gave your word. Now, folks, right then, I had a choice to choose integrity or not to choose integrity. And not choosing integrity was going to profit me a whole lot more. But I chose integrity. And I took the lesser amount of money, but I kept my word. And there are some things in life that are more important than money. There ain't a whole lot of them, but there are a few. And keeping your word is one of them. So if you want to do better in life, if you're a felon and you're getting out of prison and you want to start your life over and you want to do the right thing, or if you're just an average everyday citizen and you're looking to improve your life, it starts with integrity. You got to get out of your way. You got to stop the self-destructive behaviors, and you got to choose integrity. You got to keep your word. You got to be a man or a woman of your word. You're only as good as your word. Period. I'll give you another example here where it was hard for me to keep my word. Here, about a year ago, I had went back to work at a restaurant. I went in and I interviewed and I asked this man for a job. And the man hired me on the spot. I appreciated that. He gave me a job when I really needed one. And you know, fast forward 9 months, 10 months later, they brought on a new manager. And when the new manager came on, they were real strict. They were real corporate-like. And nobody really liked the new manager. And the new manager had picked me on this particular day to focus on and wanted me to do all sorts of extra cleaning. Wanted me to get up under the tables with a knife and scrape off the gum that people had stuck up under the tables. And man, I wasn't doing that. And there was a few other things going on with my schedule that I didn't like. And I went to work aggravated. And the whole time I was driving to work, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to go. And then when I got to work, I looked at the schedule and I looked at what was going on. I didn't like none of it. And I walked out to my car. I was going to quit. And I walked out to my car, and then I remembered the day I got hired. I was thankful for that job. I appreciated that job. I appreciated that man giving me the opportunity, and I told him that he wouldn't regret hiring me. And then I thought about my actions. If I walked out and I quit mid-shift, am I keeping my word? Am I acting like I have integrity? The answer to those questions were no. I turned back around and I walked back in. And I want you to know, folks, I wanted to quit so bad. I had that discussion with myself 2 more times during the shift. I walked out to my car a total of 3 times. I was going to quit that day. But all 3 times I walked back in. I kept my word. I maintained my integrity. I scraped the gum off them tables. I finished my shift. And I'm still employed there today, folks. So the next thing I want to talk to you about, when this is especially true or especially helpful information for felons, for people getting out of prison, but it's also true if you've never been to prison. Always be early. Always be. I live by the rule, if you're 10 minutes early, you're 20 minutes late. I try and be 30 minutes early no matter where I'm going. It's just my lifestyle. And specifically to ex-felons, I want to speak to you. We have to be better than our competition. We have to be better than the next person who is handing in a resume. Because if it's apples to apples, and you both have experience, and there's one person with a felony, and there's one person without a felony, and you're both turning in your resumes, and you're both equal on experience, human nature is generally going to hire the person without a felony. So you have to make them want you. And if you do get hired on with a felony, they're going to look at you. They're going to scrutinize you. They're going to look for a reason to get rid of you. You can't give them that reason. You have to have higher personal standards than the next person. And one way to do that is to always be early. If you're always early, you build trust. If you're always early, you're never late. If you're always early, you never have to deal with not showing up. And if you're always early, you become reliable, and they can put their confidence in you. They can put their trust in you, and they begin to appreciate you. That's my washer over there going crazy. It's a little off balance. It goes blah, 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 a lot. All right, my wife took care of it. Good for her. I appreciate her. Shout out to my wife. I love you, baby. So the next thing, besides stopping our self-destructive behaviors, doing what you say you're going to do, always being early, you have to learn to delay your gratification. Seeking instant gratification has brought many a man down. Seeking instant gratification will keep you from saving your money. Seeking instant gratification will cause you to go home with the wrong person at night. Seeking instant gratification will cause you to quit and give up rather than stick it out and persevere. Learning to delay your gratification may very well be the most important skill to develop of all. It kind of works like life's cheat code. The more you learn self-discipline, the more you learn to look towards the future as opposed to right now, the better your life will be. I cannot explain, I cannot elaborate, I cannot fully portray to you the importance of this. Life is full of opportunities to seek instant gratification. Usually those things are unhealthy to your body, to your mind, to your soul, to your relationship, and to your finances. Above all, learn to delay your gratification. It's boring, it's unpopular, requires discipline and willpower stronger than most people have. But it's the secret to success. And what it lacks in fun right now, it more than makes up for in rewards later. And the next thing for raising your personal standards is volunteering to help others. If you are out there and you find a way to give back to society, if you find a way to give back to people less fortunate than you, if you actively seek a way to volunteer and be a blessing to others, whether that is in some sort of organized fashion, maybe you volunteer at a prison like I do, maybe you volunteer at an old folks home, maybe you volunteer at the Humane Society with the animals, maybe you volunteer in some kind of way like that, or maybe you just pray every day and you ask the Lord to give you the opportunity to be a blessing, and you help people informally. Maybe you mow your neighbor's grass for them because they're a little older, or they don't have a mower, or whatever the case may be. Volunteering to help others is good for your soul. And if it's good for your soul, it's good for your mind. And if your mind and your soul are in good places, the rest of you will follow. So that's it for today for raising your personal standards. I appreciate everybody that watches this. If you'll click like and subscribe, I appreciate that. And I will be back with another one called How to Improve Your Personal Relationship. And maybe I get my wife to join me on that one. Up your averages.